Hey Websters, part 2 here. In this video we're going to be looking at the additional document identification that you need to do in your document-based questions. So this is the missing voice that you need to identify, the document that would help you further prove your thesis or give you a broader perspective on the topic. And sometimes the document-based question will actually kind of specify how they want you to provide or what they want this additional document to be about, or just give you some context for providing the additional document. Remember, you only have to do this correctly one time to get the point, so like your point of view, so you can do it in every paragraph, with every group, all 3 or 4 of your groups, and to get the point. Or you can, if you're pretty confident in your additional document, you can put it in your conclusion or in a paragraph separate before your conclusion. So let's get working. So as a reminder, your additional document, you're going to be finding the missing voice, and this is the toughest point to get in a DBQ. Well, nowadays, not necessarily the point of view anymore. So keep in mind that you have to go beyond kind of the basic. It would be good to hear from a general in the Army. Well, if that's it, then it's not going to be right. You're not going to get the point. You have to explain why it would be good to hear from a general in the Army. What extra perspective or what additional voice would this add to your DBQ? If you already have a bunch of documents from generals, then it most likely would not add to that voice. We need to avoid needing to hear from peasants or women just in talking with graders. This is kind of tired, it's the obvious, and it doesn't necessarily always add to the essay. The easiest way is to find a document that has one particular point of view and then asking for the balancing point of view. So maybe a particular bias and then asking for the balance. And as we went over in class, the modern Olympic DBQ, a British person writing about in 1955 about an event in 1936, talked about the Germans cheating. The missing voice there is the German defense. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to look at some of these examples, and we're going to use the same prompt as the last essay, the last video, the similarities and differences in mechanization of the cotton industry in Japan and India from 1880s to 1930s. And it asks you to identify an addition document and explain how it would help your analysis of the mechanization of the cotton industry. So that's the additional document it's asking for. Keep in mind an analysis of it and how it would help your analysis of this mechanization of this industry found in Japan and India. So pause the video when you need to after I explain it before I give you the answers of whether they're adequate or inadequate. So let's go ahead. Oh, messed that one up. So you know this one is adequate. So here's the statement. Here's the analysis. An additional document that would have been helpful would have been a set of data that separated the hand-spun and machine-spun cotton yarn produced in Japan to see if the same thing was going on there. So, which we may have had, what it seems like we've had in this, because obviously you don't have the documents in front of you, is that we have this data for India, but not Japan. So if we had more data, and we had similar data on Japan in addition to India, then it would add to our analysis of mechanization of the cotton industry. That's a great one. Let's go ahead for the next. Alright, here we are. It's working now. So here's another one. And think to yourself whether or not this is adequate or inadequate. If we had been provided a personal account of a response to this document, we could have seen 2 opposing sides of the subject, and therefore learn more of the struggle it brought on. This is inadequate. One of the things here is it's very vague. Keep in mind, for the last one, you didn't even see these documents, and with the last one, you could understand what the other document was by the way they worded it and by the way they looked at the analysis. For this one, you really have no clue what the other document is that it's even referred to. So it doesn't do a good enough job of describing the other document that it's looking for the opposing view of, and it doesn't even explain necessarily why the opposing view is needed. So learn more of the struggle. Well, what are we going to learn about the struggle? We're going to learn about a personal account of an owner of a cotton factory. Are we going to learn of the struggle of peasants? What? It's just too vague. Let's go to this next one. I need to call for an additional document. I would like a document that is written, that is a written account from an Indian worker, similar to document number 3. This is adequate. Now, I would advise you not to use first person, and this is kind of our bare minimum. So in document 3, obviously, we had from our previous video, and basically from what you can see here, we know that there were document 3 was the account of 2 Japanese workers in a factory. 2 women, female workers. In this case, we're looking for the missing voice, the balancing point of view. We've seen it in Japan, and we're looking for it in India as well. I feel like this could be much stronger. There could definitely be some more analysis about why you would want this document, and I would avoid using first person, but nevertheless, it gets the point. Let's move on to the next one. An additional document that would be helpful would be a newspaper ad for kimonos and yukatas. The ad would tell what the clothing were made from and where they were manufactured. This is not acceptable because this simply says that you would like a newspaper ad or an advertisement for clothes. Well, an advertisement is inherently biased. It's inherently persuasive. And then it would tell what the clothes are made of. Well, that might be okay if you're trying to figure out whether it's made from cotton, but overall it tells you it has no helpful analysis of the mechanization of cotton manufacturing. Well, let's go back to the cotton industry, the mechanization of the cotton industry, excuse me. So here, this is not going to provide any additional information on how the cotton industry mechanized. It would only tell you, oh, this clothes was manufactured here and this was here, possibly. And oftentimes, of course, ads are inherently biased. So, not any good. Alright, here we go. An additional document that would be helpful would be a chart showing India's laborers compared to Japan's overall laborers from an industrial point of view. Let's think about this. This is not going to be enough. It's very vague, and the reason being is it says an additional document would be helpful, would show the comparison between these laborers from an industrial point of view. But this doesn't say why these documents would be helpful necessarily. Excuse me, somebody walked in the room. Gather my thoughts here. So it does not explain how this would help analyze mechanization of the cotton industry. What are you charting? Charting between these laborers? Are you comparing their salaries? Are you comparing their work hours? Are you comparing their skills? It's not specific enough. All right. An additional document that would explain the mechanization of the cotton industry is a document from a government record of the amount of deaths caused by factory conditions to show the terrible working conditions in the factory. So what do we think about this one? This is acceptable. This is a great example of an additional document need. Basically, you're looking at the changes that are going on in the mechanization of the cotton industry. It's asking for, it's looking into factory conditions, and it addresses the terrible working conditions that we expect to see in the factories based on our other documents. Of course, if we had the data to show the amount of deaths, that would make our writing about the terrible working conditions much stronger. I think this is a very good example of the need for an additional document. That's it, guys. Here I am. Apologies for the hesitancy there for a little bit. Make sure that you take your next step in writing an additional document analysis on your own. You're only required to do one and submit through Moodle, but you may do two if you would like, if you like a little bit of response on both. Keep in mind, try to find the missing voice, try to find the what you might need to help strengthen your thesis. And of course, you can use the theses we did together as a class as a jumping off point. Make sure you submit your point of view and your additional document analysis together in Moodle. And if you have not done so already, make sure that you submit your DBQ grouping through that assignment in Moodle as well. That's it for today. You should, when you finish, make sure that you're studying, and we will have, I'll see you next week. Of course, email me if you have any questions about this or anything on the midterm.